Hello, YouTubers and meat sacks. I'm Useful Idiot. Welcome. And so, President Trump has made good on his promise to release the JFK files. And it was interesting. Of course, a lot of people were pushing for Trump to do this and then started complaining when he didn't do it right away. But here we are 2 months in, and he's finally made good on his promise. He's released um, a fair amount of the material. And one component of this, of course, is that in 1992, Congress passed a law that all the records would be released by 2017. And here it is eight years later, and it's finally being done. So theoretically, any president past 2017, including Trump in his original administration, could have released these documents. So I'm kind of curious about that, why he didn't do it the first 4 years. But of course, now he's very adamant about outing the deep state and causing all kind of carnage in the U.S. government and all the things they've held as classified. And so it kind of makes sense that he's doing it this time. He got a lot of bad advice his first administration. And he's got a lot of people in his administration this time that are on his side, including key members overseeing the FBI and the intelligence agencies and everything else. So it's here. And as we suspected, it's a little anticlimactic, and as it turns out, it's kind of incomplete because out of 3,500 documents, so far apparently 1,124 have been released, so there's quite a few there. And then none of the 2,400 documents the FBI discovered recently are included in this dump as well. So it begs the question, what's being withheld? So we get a partial release, and it's anticlimactic because there's no bombshells in it, and it kind of infers the idea that a lot of things that are being held back are the ones that would be more damning. So we'll have to stay tuned to see how much more is released and what kind of information comes out. Then we also have to bide our time because a lot of researchers are going through all these documents. There's a ton of them, and they have to go through them page by page and find out what kind of revelations are in it. So the base point is addressing all the conspiracy theories. And as we know, the whole idea of a conspiracy theorist and a conspiracy theory basically started with the Kennedy assassination as is now part of the vernacular. And now it's routinely used. And in fact, the CIA apparently coined that phrase, and then have the government and the FBI and the CIA has used it ever since to malign anyone that comes up with an idea that's contrary to the status narrative. So the fact is, the idea of a conspiracy theory is now a handy tool to be pulled out anytime somebody comes up with something that conflicts with the status narrative. So that's an interesting component. But of course, the theories are all still left unaddressed thus far. One theory is that the CIA killed him, and one small bombshell that has come out is the indication that there was rogue elements in the CIA that were involved. And I think that's fairly convenient. It's fairly convenient to not damn the entire CIA and complain that there was just rogue elements in the CIA, and I find that not plausible. I guess it's possible, but it seems to me that if anybody in the CIA was involved in the Kennedy assassination, then pretty much most people in the agency would have to know. Of course, the other possible explanation is that indeed maybe it was a component within the CIA that acted on this and then gives plausible deniability to the rest of the agency. And then, of course, maybe it is just rogue elements in the CIA. But in any case, the CIA is seemingly confirmed to be involved in some capacity. Then there's the theory that the Soviets had him killed after the embarrassment of the Cuban Missile Crisis. And that doesn't seem to be appearing in the documents, although it has been revealed that KGB agents were actually doing an investigation of Lee Harvey Oswald to see if he indeed was one of their assets. And we know that Lee Harvey Oswald visited the Soviet Union, so there are some connections there. Another theory, of course, is the Cubans had him killed because of the Bay of Pigs operation. And that's possible. More likely, it was Cuban exiles in the United States and not the Cuban government itself. So that question is left unanswered. And then the idea that the mafia had him killed because of RFK as Attorney General persecuting mafia elements in the United States. And that's possible, but nothing seems to be in the documents that says anything about that one way or another. And then there's the suggestion, which I haven't heard about that much, that Israel had him killed. Um, that seems possible just because Israel likes to kill people and has throughout their history that don't get aboard on their agenda. But once again, there's nothing in these documents that relays any of that. And then the final one, of course, is that LBJ was involved because he wanted a power grab. And I don't necessarily know if LBJ was pushing for a power grab, but I do know that there's some pretty damning things out there. The interview with his former mistress, who talked about how LBJ was talking and acting the day JFK was killed, and also tape recordings of him talking about those SOBs will never embarrass him again. So LBJ definitely had a bone to pick, and I still think he's a major component in this. But my basic idea is that all of those people are involved, and I've talked about that before in conspiracy theory, where there's a number of people who get involved who have various agendas. They may or may not be coordinated, but they're all involved in some way. Certainly, people have come out and discussed the idea that there was more than one shooter, and there doesn't seem to be any revelations about that thus far. And we know for a fact, yeah, and I say that we know for a fact because I think there's enough evidence out there to prove that there was more than one shooter. And just the fact that Woody Harrelson's dad confessed to his son that he was one of the shooters. So we know there's more than one person involved. And of course, Woody Harrelson's dad would have been a CIA asset. So it brings that possibility up again. But apparently in the National Archives, there's 5 million pages of documents on JFK, and we're nowhere near close to that. And Trump has pointed out that 80,000 documents have been released, and supposedly only 63,000 have appeared so far. So again, maybe they're holding some back because they reveal the kind of things that we thought might be in there. And they're also talking now, after looking over the documents, that there was no domestic conspiracy, and I just find that not believable. And then there's also another tidbit that came out that the UK sent a warning 25 minutes before the assassination that something big was going to happen. And so that's a little tidbit. So there are a number of things in there that are interesting that point in the direction we thought, but so far it's kind of a nothing burger and anticlimactic. But I got to hand it to Trump for coming through on his promise, and we'll just have to look forward to see if further documents are revealed. Maybe this is just a token gesture, release as many documents as they can with limited information, and then the real juicy stuff may still be held back, but at least Trump can say he released the documents. And of course, we haven't heard anything about the RFK assassination or the Martin Luther King assassination. In both cases, there's a lot of plausible theories that the shooter for MLK was a patsy, and he said as much all those years he was in prison. And then also all the theories about Sirhan, that there was other shooters involved there, and a lot of the physical evidence points that direction. So anyway, as some of my friends have expressed, we're left with all these documents being revealed, and once again, there's more questions than there are answers, but that's the way it goes. But anyway, Trump made good on his promise, and at least it's a step in the right direction. Now I wonder if they're going to release all the documents that are still classified since the Civil War, which I find very perplexing, that there could still be documents that are classified from the Civil War. Maybe the South's going to rise again. They don't want to inflame them. Who knows? Anyway, I'm useful at it. Don't you be one too.